We'll let a couple of hugs go on, and then they're going to take their seats, Dad. After you hug up everyone up, they're going to take their seat up there. Endured in making it a success is why we are here to celebrate our 30th year in business. I didn't mention the most important guest here, my mom.
That's great. That's the real boss.
So, with our 30th anniversary, we wanted to honor Dad in a very special way. He is truly a living legend in the shoe world. He is that superstar, that rock star, that king of shoe dogs, that giant of retail. And through the years, Chris and I have heard from many people in this industry, our small industry, of all the things that Dad had meant to them and how he touched their lives and how he truly was the finest shoe man they ever met. And it wasn't until about a month ago that Eric Kane came in, and Eric was reliving some things that stories he had about Dad. But when he started telling us some of the things that he said truly made him the greatest shoe man he's ever known, we said something has to be done. We have to assemble a group like this together and pay tribute to Dad. And so that's why we're gathered together. What Michael Jordan is to basketball, what Muhammad Ali was to boxing, what Picasso is to art, Ron Fox is to shoes. However, in the sports world, they have what is called the Hall of Fame, where they honor individuals who are the best of the best, the elite, and forever they're immortalized through this induction and this recognition of their greatness and their achievements in their particular sport field. Then you have what's called the Lifetime Achievement Award for the motion picture industry and the Music Academy. And they honor individuals who, through their artistic contributions, have changed the music world or the motion picture world. People like Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep and others. You can think of the names of these people that are great. But in the shoe industry, there's no such Hall of Fame. There's no Lifetime Achievement Award. Old shoe dogs just kind of fade away, you know. And we've got a couple that are assembled here that, probably faded or limped away, and so, but
limped away.
Yeah. So Dad is here. We want to give him that thing that's long overdue, and that's that respect, that recognition, the admiration that we have for him. His peers recognize him as a giant in the independent shoe retail world. And so it's recognition, but the other thing is inspiration is why we're here. We have some new employees, people that haven't met our father before, people that don't know the sacrifice, the blood, sweat, and tears it took to get us to this point where we're celebrating 30 years of business. It's easy to take for granted, just look around and think, well, this store has always been this way. They're like many of the stores here in the mall. We came 30 years ago. Well, I'll let him tell the story because that's what we're going to really get to. I'm going to turn things over and let him tell his story and his journey. And by that, you're going to be inspired, okay? Some of you are going to go on, some of our employees, like many do, are going to go on to other career paths. And when you do, you can look back on this inspiration, his formula for success, and it's going to help you succeed and achieve in your life whatever dreams you may have. So recognition and inspiration brings us together this morning, and we hope that you'll be inspired by his journey. I've got a few principal people that I want to introduce. Honored guests, some have driven a long ways to be with us this morning. We have Larry and Irene Peck. They are right here, and so let's recognize them. Lifelong friends and colleagues in the shoe world, and they're going to have, in fact, Larry was the principal reason how we came to be here purchasing the shoebox from the next person I'm going to introduce. But he knew, had the contact, and he got a hold of Dad and said there might be an opportunity to move from this little tiny shoe store, Fox's Shoes in Aptos, California, and expand to the big world of a shopping mall. It was his dream, you know. So we're so happy to have Larry and Irene Peck. The owner of the original shoebox. It was a hush puppy store in that day, and that was Henry and Ann Meester. Ann, Henry, thank you for coming. They bought the shoebox as a package deal. They were interested in buying the Stride Rite store that came along with it. They have a lifelong history in shoes and children's shoes. Extremely successful, one of the largest volume stores in the country. Stride Rite stores, right here. So we've got another rock star of shoes right here in Henry Meester. And Henry was the one that so graciously put this together for our family, and we wouldn't be here without Henry and Henry. So, and then I mentioned that Eric Kane, he was the manager of the largest shoe store when we came here to the mall, Houston's Shoes, a large chain, and he and Dad would have lunch on almost every day for many, many years. And I'll let him share a couple of things about his experience with him. His boss used to ride him hard and say, "Why are you meeting with him? He's the enemy. He's gonna try to steal secrets from us." I'll let him finish that story in just a minute here. And then we have a couple of past employees, longtime employees with us. We have Heidi Oneto. Heidi here. Formerly Heidi Graydonis. And Heidi worked for probably 15 to 18 years. She was our first sales associate. Our first employee was Nellika Vanderveen. And Nellika and Hank are here with us. They have been here the entire 30 years. They are the backbone of, she's the backbone of our business. We couldn't survive without her. We owe you a great debt of gratitude. But it was with Heidi too, and all of the contacts she had. We hired an enormous amount of individuals, young girls that Heidi knew, from Ripon Christian, all of these Dutch girls. They were all about this tall. You look up at them. And they were wonderful employees. And Heidi was just, she's been a part of our family from day one. She's the first one, I think, that started calling him affectionately Papa Fox. Papa Fox. So a lot of employees, and some of our new ones that are just meeting for the first time, it's okay to refer to him as Papa Fox. Okay? But anyway, there's obstacles that Dad overcame. I want to say this. We are a family-run business. We truly believe that. But not just our family. People say, I love shopping at the Shoebox. It's a family-run business, and I love that. But it's not just our family. Because these employees, Heidi, oh, I forgot Jason Wanhoss. Let's hear it for Jason. Jason had the longest tenure with us. He was here 16 consecutive years? 17, okay. Our general manager, he managed our women's store and then both stores. We leaned on him heavily, and he was a true rock and a great representative of our family here at the Shoebox, and we're thankful that Jason's come. But we want to say that this family that run business is also our extended family, our employees. We truly count you as part of our family. And not only you, but our customers. We want to treat them and view them as family. And so we are a family-run business. Not just our family, but everyone in this room. Oh, another guest I want to say, and that is Sherry's mom, my mother-in-law, Faye Geis, is here with us. And Faye worked with Mom and Dad way back when in Aptos at that little store, and she's just a real gem, and our family love you so much, Faye. Okay, well, I'm going to talk about his unquenchable passion. I mean, Dad has told us for years, you'll never meet another person that loves the shoe business more than me. Never. And I've never yet found one. He had this unquenchable passion. He had an undeniable talent, multi-talented. You know, it's not just that he was good with customers. You know, some people can be great salesmen. But he had an eye for shoes and buying shoes. We would be at a presentation where the rep is laying out the entire line in front of us, and he's pushing some aside and he's looking at others, and they would, once they knew what kind of an eye he had for shoes, they would quickly go get maybe one of the designers, and pretty soon he'd be discussing different things about this vamp is not cut right, you need to put the strap up a little higher in the shoe. He could see the shoes that were successful and the ones that were failures, and people would always come to him and ask them, could you help us in shoe design? He could have had a career in that. But not only is he an outstanding salesman and shoe buying expert, but he loved customers. You know, some buyers, some owners are in the back room. You know, they're doing the day-to-day chores that business demands, but he always wanted to have the pulse of the customer. He wanted to know, you know, what are they asking for? What are they looking for? He wanted to be on the cutting edge, the leading edge of what's new and innovative. And he was one of the first ones to bring Euro comfort shoes into this area when everyone else was with the old, you know, Selby's and Cobbies, and we had to leave some of that because the industry was turning and changing. He just turned on. Yeah. So, I mean, his talent and I think one of the greatest talents he had was in merchandising. I mean, look around you. He designed this store. This man designed the store, and he could arrange things and display things in such an artistic way that it drew people in. Back in the day when there were no malls, you went shopping downtown and there would be storefront windows. And so people would come and they would look at the window, and then they'd come on in and they'd say, sir, I want to try this shoe right over here. And they'd have to go outside the window and point to one. You didn't have a bay like this to go touch the shoes. You just looked through a window. And he would trim these windows in such a way that it would just pull people in. And he was in great demand. People would ask stores, companies would ask, would you come trim our windows? Would you come teach us how to do this artistic flair that you have? And so I think multi-talented, it's beyond belief. This unquenchable passion, nothing would deter him. No one loved the shoe business like him. An unbelievable determination. He wouldn't let anything stand in his way from achieving his goal, his dream. And so, Eric, you can talk a little bit about some of the obstacles that you observed that should have put a lot of people away, should have, you know, been impassable, impossible, but he didn't let it get to him.
And the manager, Larry Eason, had told my mother, if he wants to go into something where he'll always have a job, start him in shoes. It became like a curse. So when I went off to college, you know, I was working in the shoe store in Berkeley, and you know, I could do arithmetic, and I remember it was 15 pair a day or you don't pay the rent. And so that's the school of hard knocks that Ron came out of. But Ron, literally, I believe, is a genius. Because he told me this great story about when he was a kid, and I got the impression that he did not come from wealth. It was a pretty hard life as a kid. He says, But I'll never forget the day we went into the shoe store and the salesman had on a black suit. And he needed to get a shoe out of the window, and he took that coat off, and it had a red lining. And I said, I'm going to be a shoe man.
And did you work for Product Terry too for a short period of time?
Yeah.
Product Terry, and even I used to go to the store in Santa Cruz. Some of the stories, I go down there and we have good discussions. Mary Ann was there. I used to always admire. I said, you're the only guy that takes locations that nobody else would take. I said, I do admire your back patio, because business wasn't really a jump like you come into a mall or a nice town country village kind of a center. But we could sit in the back of his store there and look down through like a gully down here, like a river runs through Santa Cruz here, the trees back there. And I said, I have a lot of customers, but damn, this is wonderful. I mean, it's like going to Lake Tahoe. And he says, that's why I got this story. But to tell you the truth, Ron, your success is because you never really had a job. You had a hobby.
Yeah.
And when you have a hobby, work is not work. You don't go to work, oh God, another day and what have you. So I had to write a few notes down here. I've known you for over 30 years. Difficult times. You work for some other independents, a few chains, and you work for somebody else. Those difficult times can become, you want to make a change. You want to move on to a different maybe career or what have you. But Ron didn't take them as being looked down on or what have you. He looked at it as an opportunity. I'm going to learn from the mistakes these guys are making talking to me now. But you saw those difficult times and you moved on. You loved challenge and what have you. You always look for ways to improve your business, improve the selection of footwear for your customers. The difficult time when you're a buyer is some buyers buy for their own eyes, their own tastes and likes. Ron bought for his customers. That's hard to do. That's his background again, understanding the shoe business, knowing his customers. Those are the kind of things that make a successful business. So I want to say, one of the best buyers because you knew who your customer was. Also, I think the other thing that people talk about, Steve talked about, you're a people person. And I think when you work with people or you meet people, they can tell whether you really have a heart for their needs or their problems or what they're looking for, and you understood that. I mean, again, it was a passion, like Steve mentions. And I think that other things that kind of go on with that is that you were able to, I think, which is difficult in today's environment, but my friend Henry, you, Ron, you brought your sons into the business. And they now have that same passion.
And my wife.
And your wife. Well, Mary Ann, I haven't got that far yet, but see, behind every man, we think we do it. Now there's a strong woman behind us that's always pushing us and giving us the confidence to move up or to do better. I can remember the days Mary Ann would be down at the store every day, but as good as Ron is, if Mary Ann wasn't there patting him on the back and saying, "You can do it. We can do it."
3 pair of shoes all day long.
But
That's a good day.
that really led to your success, and I'm happy to have been invited to come down and congratulate you on your success. And for Chris and for Steve, I don't know, where's Chris? Everybody's back here.
And my daughter Kim, she's in sales.
Yeah,
too.
Kim, yeah.
She took after Dad with the
And
the thing that I always appreciated about him, though, more than anything, because in retail, as in many places, not everyone maintains virtue. And Ron, before anything else, is a human being. And he never took advantage of people. He was always on the side of the little guy. He never lost his humanity. His family was first. And he was always honest. And more than anything, you know, as much as I admire, you know, he's a genius. Look at this. You know, this is just one of the finest setup I've ever seen, really. And I saw a lot of people become millionaires, and everybody would sort of look up to him because they didn't know the story. But you can see Larry Peck and Henry Meester, and these are the kind of guys, they don't exist anymore. They looked at their customers as somebody they wanted to help and improve their lives, not as somebody to make a buck off of. And Ron has always looked at the shoe business as a calling and something that he could do that would help people have, he used to say, happy feet. I'm going to give you happy feet. And so more than anything, as much as I do believe he's at the store level, and Steve hit it, you know, from the fitting stool to display to an eye for shoes, Ron really is the greatest I ever saw. But as a human being, he's even greater. And that's what I really like about it.
But Dad didn't amass fortune or fame or stardom by the world standards. But for us, he is a king, and he is a superstar, and he has an enormous amount of respect from not only his family, but the friends that are gathered here. We have this as a Brandt device to measure the size of one's feet. Dad, we want you to know that we use you to measure the size of one's heart and dedication and commitment.
Thank you.
So,
Don't you dare stain our new carpet.
Eric said it best, you know, he didn't come from wealth. You can make a lot of mistakes in business if you have deep pockets.
Go Chris.
We had humble means growing up, but he scraped together everything he could to pour his life and his heart and soul into this business. Didn't come from wealth. He didn't have education. You know, education can be helpful if you have a business degree. Maybe it gives you some advantages in succeeding in business. He didn't have good health. This man has had numerous open heart surgeries, bypasses, stents, balloons, you name it. They've written a book on him. He shouldn't be here technically. His first heart attack was at the age of 30, when all four of us kids were gathered around Mom, and Dad was in the hospital, and they said he had a heart attack. He was a district manager of gallon camps, and he was burning both ends of the candle, and just, it literally almost put him into the grave at age 30. And, you know, I was 10 years old, I remember, and Chris was like 4, and Kim and Carrie, you know, in between that. And I remember telling Mom, you know, Mom, we'll be here. We're going to get you. You know, it was a scary time, and numerous other times, and to the point where it almost became so predictable, especially at Christmas time, the most stressful time, he would always land in the hospital. But Eric said it best. He said, the guy would bounce back from a heart attack like we bounce back from the cold or the flu. He would be back to work like a week later or whatever. He just took a couple of days, then okay, I'm back, you know, and he'd be waiting on customers again.
No, he wanted a week off, that's all.
Oh, he just wanted
Give him a week anyway.
Okay, I've said enough, and I don't know whether to just let you start telling the story and let individuals chime in along the way, or if someone came here prepared to say something, you know, maybe someone has something they want to say before he starts the story. Because I already gave Eric an opportunity.
Not too late, Chris.
Granddad went back to law
heard a story a long time ago in high school. They knew these two brothers. They got the contract to put up the chain link fencing along the freeway. And you imagine how many freeways are in California, and on the sides there's these chain link fences. These guys are millionaires. And I remember asking Mom, why didn't you date one of them? Us kids, shoe man, no money, no. This is really what I wanted to say now is for you guys back there. These people up here have known Dad for years. And if you look at Heidi and Mike and Jason and Monty too, they knew Dad. And they saw our little store doing, you know, $200,000 a year and $300,000 a year. Most of you are now new, and you think, oh, this is the way it's always been. But it started at ground level of one man just loving the business more than anything else. Literally, our whole time we grew up, we knew one thing: Dad worked 6 days a week, never got to see him, except on Sundays, and that was family day, and that was a very important day on that day. You know, as a little kid, that was like almost torture, because you were like, can I go play with Billy? No, this is our day. You know? But I just want you guys back here that are new to kind of look around and know, 30 years later, Heidi is still a part of our family. Mike is still a part of our family. Jason is still a part of our family. And I hope you guys see that maybe this is just a job for now. Maybe this is just a stepping stone. Maybe you're going to get caught up and it will be your life passion, which would be great for us. But know that this was the American dream, and you guys have that same opportunity. Mm-hmm. Find something that you love, something that you can just say, it's not work, it's a hobby, and you can be successful. This is the greatest country in the world. We can come and start with nothing. You should see the stuff. My dad would get stuff, like he'd go to the you know, like the garbage dump and say, someone threw that away? I can repaint that. I can use that as display. And you don't have to have a lot. You just have to have passion in life. And so for you guys, I hope 30 years from now, we're having you guys sit here and tell stories about me and Steve.
I'm going to tell stories too about Chris when that day happens.
And just so you know, Heidi, we've already only told them about your outfits. They have stories. Who has heard a Heidi story? No, but thank you guys very much for just honoring my dad. You know, we go through life and try so hard, and sometimes just getting a pat on the back and knowing how much people love you and just want to say thank you. My family wouldn't be where it is today.
Love for this business, what they have said is that you will never ever meet another person that loved the shoe business as much as I did. I came from a broken family. My dad left me when I was 13 years old, and my mother was a working waitress that tried to raise me and my sister. And I was fortunate enough to go back to my uncle's shoe store in Elgin, Illinois, and he worked for Shift Shoes, which was a very large shoe company. And I was sweeping the floor and cleaning the windows on my vacation, and he had me stop a lady. He said, could you just stop her for a few minutes? And I was 15 years old, and I walked up to her and I says, can I help you, ma'am? And she says, yeah, I want to show you a shoe. In those days, we didn't have displays, we just had windows. She took me out the window and she says, I want to try that pair of shoes. And I says, okay, have a seat. I didn't ask her size. I says, wait a minute. I turned around, I said, what size do you wear? She says, a 7. I went in the back room and they used to flag shoes. White, blue, black, brown, all in color. I went to the red section, I went up and down, I found a 7. I came back out and I says, here. She tried on, she says, I'll take them. And I said, you'll take them? She says, yeah. You want to buy these pair? She says, yes, I wanna buy this pair of shoes. I took them up to the counter, I didn't know the register, I was never in sales or anything, I handed them to my cousin, and he rang up the sale. That night at dinner, my uncle started in the shoe business in 1932 during the Depression. And he worked for just PM spiffs. He was no salary. Just shoes that weren't moving. If you could sell those, you could keep the spiff money, which was $0.25. And it meant a lot to him to sell. So at that dinner table, he asked me, I says, Uncle Bob, did you see me sell the shoe? And he stopped and he says, did you sell her a handbag? And I says, no. Did you sell her any nylons? And I says, no. Any polish? I says, no. You didn't sell her anything. You were just a clerk. I want salesmen in my store. And I started to cry. This man is belittling me because I didn't sell. And he says, Ron, I'm just kidding. He says, you did a nice job. Thanks for making it. Stop it. I picked up the phone in Elgin, Illinois, and I called my mother in Richmond, California, and I says, Mom, guess what? I'm going to be a shoe salesman. Now, what boy at 15 years of age decides what they're going to do? I had a lead to come out to California and meet a chain of stores called Gallon Camps. I went in, introduced myself, but before that, in those days he used to have floor managers. And he says, can I help you? And I said, yes, do you need a good shoe salesman? This man was about 40 years of age. We had 17 employees in the store, and they were all maybe 25 to 40. Here's a 15-year-old kid saying, you need a good shoe salesman. He didn't want to laugh in front of me, but he said, yeah, I'll go back and talk to Mr. Kleinman. He'll talk to you. I went back and started in the shoe business at a very young age, but I had a talent in my high school years. I took art, and and drafting, and I had a background of art and drafting. So when it came time to trim the windows, I says, can I trim the window? And he was kind of a strange boss in that he chased women, but he locked me in the store.
That's a lot of
He says, okay, now you trim the window. And he came back and then he would criticize my merchandising. And I says, okay, I'll do it better on the next window. And he says, well, that's next week. You start in again. He liked what I did. And I ended up in my career of being able to do displays and put colors together and put shoes together. And I was blessed. But I had the driving force behind me was my wife. She wanted me to quit 1,000 times, but I couldn't. I said, I love this business. And she says, I know, it's driving me nuts. I worked 6 days a week. I put in 54 hours a week for $60. And it was pretty common to work your butt off and get very little money. But I had such a love for the business, as I kept going, people liked me. And I never had anybody love me like my customers love me. My wife loved me. And so I got so tied up that this is a great career. People are loving Ron Fox because they sold a nice pair of shoes. And then I would say, I don't have any education. I'm going to have to take and learn everything I can. I would go to other shoe stores, other companies. I'd look and see and pick the good stuff and get rid of the bad stuff. And that was my education. I put in 16 years with Gallon Camps, and that was my college degree. And these gentlemen here, Eric is a college professor. He graduated from Berkeley and became a shoe man, but then he went back to school and became a professor. Larry and Henry graduated from business school in Santa Clara, and they were great businessmen. I mean, they made money. I didn't make any money because I didn't.
I did.
So this could go on, I could talk for hours and hours. but
That's
I
why
got-
we're here, Ron. We wanted to get us along. We didn't do too well.
I wanna kind of thank the people along my journey. In Aptos, I bought a store with 380 square feet, half the size of this room. And I did, when I bought the store, he did 30,000. I got it up to 78,000. I got it up to 100,000. And I thought, well, I'm doing good. But then Chris joined me, and Chris took an interest, and he loved the business. And I had to find another store that would provide income for me and Chris. I talked to Larry, and Larry says, I'll keep my eye out. And so he talked to Henry, and Henry came down, and here this gigantic man walked in the door. I'd never met him before. He says, I understand that you want to buy a shoe store. I says, yes. And he says, I have one in Modesto you might be interested in. And I said, Modesto? Where the hell is Modesto? And he said it's in the San Joaquin Valley, so I thought pickup trucks and migrant workers. And I said, oh, okay, I'll come down and look at it. We came down and looked at it, and me and my wife, we prayed over at Crusader Park, and God says, this is what I want you to do. Henry Meester put out a figure that he wanted for the store. And I says, I think I can get it. I think I can get it, Henry. So we sold all the shoes in our store. I sold my trucks that I loved. I sold my pool tables that I loved. I sold the guns that I loved. I sold every possession I had to buy a store in Modesto, California. I couldn't afford a shoe store, but I wanted a shoe store so bad. And when I came to Henry and I says, Henry, I don't have quite the amount of money that you wanted. And Henry said, how much do you have? And I told him, he says, put out his hand, and he grabbed me and he says, we can make it work. I'll carry a note. I don't know if you remember, Henry, in Los Gatos, I cried. Because here was a Christian man telling me that I'll give you some money and you could start your store. I came to this store and there's so many things I didn't like, but I didn't have money to correct it. So when other shoe stores closed, I would go buy shelving, or I'd buy displays, or I'd take them home and paint them, and try to make them as good as I could. And my love for the business, I just couldn't fail. I had to make it. And we worked a lot of hours. My wife and Nelka will remember my daughter. She's got her little boys in the back room. And my son's working so many hours.
Brad was one of those little boys, right?
Yep.
But God said, I will be with you, Ron, always. I'll never depart from you. So I held on to that I love this business, and my Lord and Savior was going to help me through it. Yes, I had many heart attacks. I had many surgeries. I had so many things against me. But who was with me? Nellika Vanderveen. Without her, I couldn't have done it, Nellika, because I didn't have business. I didn't know how to balance things out financially.
No, you like to buy too much.
And Nellika would say, Ron, you're going to have to put the pencil away. You can't. We're running out of money. So I'd say, okay. I'd stop buying. And then I'd come to her. How we doing, Nellika? Can I buy? No.
What? It's meaning.
So, through this wonderful Dutch lady, she got my business going. Financially, people weren't calling me saying you were late. She made sure of that. And thank you, Nellika. I had this little girl here. She was 15 years old and a little wild and dressed. Whoa!
Hey, why can't you wear a leather bustier to work? I don't see a problem with that.
I never saw a girl come in with a hat with a netting on it.
Leather hats, you know, it's all good.
But this girl could sell anything. She was just a born sales girl, a dynamic personality, Heidi. And I told you, you can do anything in sales. I don't care what it is. You can sell furniture, coats, anything. Heidi is a people person. And through Heidi and Nelica, when I needed employees, I'd say, do you know anybody? And they said, well, let's put a phone call out. Pretty soon, a Dutch girl came in, another Dutch girl came in, another Dutch girl came in. And you know what's beautiful about having Dutch people? They have a good heart and they love the Lord. And I never worried about my money, anybody stealing from me, because I had good people. And with good people, you have good business. And my business kept growing and growing. And the mall said, we're gonna move you. And I says, where to? I wanna go on the center court out in here. And they said, we're gonna move you around the corner. And I had to present plans to the mall for $100,000. As you can see, my sons were introducing me and my daughter there. I got one daughter missing that helped out in the business. And I had so many loving employees. And all of you back here that are joining the company, I can see your faces and smiling, and you look like you're happy here. And I hope you found a good job here, because I only had 2 requirements when I hired people. The first requirement was that you have to be on time. If I schedule you for 11, you better be in here at 11. The other requirement is if you steal from me, I will fire you immediately, because I can't have that. I don't have any money, but you're taking my money. So the 2 requirements were be on time and leave my money alone. Then I look them in the eye and say, you have a job forever and ever. I will never fire you unless you break those 2 rules. I built a great business. As you know, that we are probably of the top 10 independent shoe stores in Northern California. We started with nothing and built this up, but it wasn't me. It was my love for the business and my family. Without my family and my wife, I could have nothing. So I want to thank each and every one of you that came into my life and touched me and helped me grow. This is quite a morning for me, because I can see the extension of love to me, and I appreciate it. I really do. And I thank the Lord for all the blessings that I have. And as you could look at the very end of the store, there is a great, great granddaughter back there. Her name is Penelope, but we call her Sweet Pea. We now have 6 great-great-grandchildren, and it's growing.